Most people are familiar with the iconic symbol of Imperial might, the Imperial Star Destroyer. Many thousands of years from the time of the Empire in Star Wars, in a vast star cluster known as New Eden, interstellar empires thrived that could rival those in the Star Wars galaxy. Let's set up a story-oriented scenario where a Star Destroyer encounters a comparable ship from the universe of EVE Online, the massive multiplayer online sandbox game. There are titans in EVE Online that match the size of a super Star Destroyer, but as I am uneducated about titan tactics, we'll stick to battleships so that I can tell a proper story. Since far more people are familiar with Star Wars than EVE Online, the narration of this scenario will be mostly from the perspective of the Imperial side. I won't be using hard numbers or stats in this scenario for comparisons down to the megajoule or terawatt level. This is only my informed opinion with the intent of telling a good story and perhaps introducing some aspects of EVE Online to Star Wars or other sci-fi fans. Those of you who are unfamiliar with EVE Online are about to get a slight education. Our scenario begins after the Star Destroyer Avenger participates in the Battle of Endor, as seen in Return of the Jedi. When the Empire loses, the order to retreat is given, but there is no time to calculate a proper hyperspace jump. The Avenger executes a risky, blind jump to save the ship from being destroyed in the battle. They might fly through a star or worse, without proper hyperspace jump calculations. Although the ship escapes the battle, it exits hyperspace near a black hole and is heading straight into it. The Star Destroyer strains its massive engines in an effort to escape. The Avenger manages a slingshot maneuver and escapes the pull of the black hole, but is instead flung into deep space at a velocity approaching the speed of light. Unfortunately, the hyperdrive is now inoperative, and the Star Destroyer is hurling through deep space. Repairs begin immediately. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with special relativity, if a ship travels at near the speed of light, it will experience time dilation. Time passes much slower for the ship when compared to how it may have passed when traveling at a slower speed. This is a real phenomenon in science that has been tested and proven. The higher your velocity, the slower time will pass. For the crew of the Avenger, weeks may pass, while for the universe at large, years, centuries, and even millennia will have gone by. Now, if someone is mathematically inclined, feel free to calculate just how close to the speed of light the velocity has to be for thousands of years to pass, in, say, a matter of weeks or months, from the point of view of the Avenger. Eventually, the Avenger gets its hyperdrive up and running. Due to the Avenger's unusual velocity, the calculation is a bit imprecise, and will deliver them near another spatial singularity in the center of a strange star cluster some distance away from the galaxy they know, but this time out of danger. The Avenger exits hyperspace in an unknown system where there is an unusual amount of nebula backlighting the stars. They are now thousands of years removed from their time. They must explore to find any hope of sanctuary. Using their sensors, they are able to detect activity that indicates spacefaring civilizations in the nearby star systems. The Avenger begins to check them out. Eventually, the Avenger finds a system with a large space station orbiting a planet. A communication with the station is a problem as the language is foreign, but after some days, mutual curiosity prevails, and the Avenger is able to uplink with the station's computer system. The Imperials now have information about the local empires of the New Eden cluster, history, economy, and a handy star map of over 4,000 Stargate link systems, out of over 7,000 star systems in the New Eden cluster. The Stargates allow for faster-than-light travel that is faster than even hyperdrive between the star systems, although most of the New Eden starships must rely on Stargates rather than any self-contained system for travel between stars, such as the hyperdrive used by the Avenger. The Imperials learn that they have reached a system called Endor on the backwater fringes of the vast Amara Empire, a low-security star system where police forces do not defend victims from unprovoked attacks. The local star system communication frequencies are accessed, and finally, local channels indicate a mysterious newcomer in the Endor system. This would be one of New Eden's infamous capsuleers, part clone, part cyborg, and effectively immortal. They could jack in their brains to interface with starships for direct control on a level that far exceeded Imperial science. Their ships could operate on what would be a skeleton crew by Imperial standards, and if they died, their consciousness would be downloaded into a new clone in a vat sitting safely in some other system. Finally, with a flash, a strange ship emerges from the abyss of deep space. It's a rather large ship. The Imperials immediately begin scanning it and consulting the New Eden database. The ship class is known as the Machariel, a 1,400-meter-long battleship designed by a feared pirate organization known as the Angel Cartel. Its size is just 200 meters in length short of the Avenger. Large weapon turrets with spinning barrels bristle all over the ship's garish hull. These turrets are comparable in size to the Avengers. The large thrusters were rated with similar, if not greater, force than the Star Destroyers, and shield readings weren't clear, but it seemed that this particular ship favored shield defenses over armor. This particular Machariel is much lighter than the Star Destroyer. As this is a pirate ship captained or piloted by a capsuleer, there is no way of knowing if what the Avenger is seeing represents the standard configuration. The New Eden database reveals no specifics on the exact types of weapons or equipment such a ship would use. It's not much help. The only information it gives is that this ship favors kinetic weapon types. The Avenger hails the other ship, identifying itself while warning that they were capable of defending themselves if attacked. The response is simply, "What the hell kind of ship is that? Looks like a bastardized hurricane." Enemy targeting pings light up on the Avenger's sensor board. Alerted, the Avenger goes to battle stations and launches a defensive screen of TIE fighters. Now, let's compare these two battleships' fighter support ships. Imperial Star Destroyers carry a whopping 72 TIE fighters, which is comprised of TIE LNs, TIE Interceptors, and TIE Bombers. This is a respectable swarm. However, they are rather delicate. The Machariel is not a carrier, but more of a gunship. Instead of fighters, it carries combat drones. These robot fighter craft are versatile and come in a variety of designs with different specialties and characteristics. Each drone has a sophisticated computer system linked to the capsuleer's brain. They have shields, armor, and can match any TIE fighter in speed. They come in light, medium, and heavy sizes, with the heavies being more equivalent to bombers. This particular Machariel is equipped with several Hobgoblin light drones and Hammerhead medium drones kept in reserve. The Machariel has only enough drone control bandwidth for 5 drones at a time, meaning only 5 drones can be deployed at any one time, although it can launch more drones as some are destroyed. The drones are launched to mirror the defensive posture of the Star Destroyer. Instead of a screen, they orbit the pirate battleship in a kind of swarm. Being that this particular capsuleer is criminal who inhabits the fringe of civilized space with a negative security status, he's aggressive and combat-oriented. The Avenger captain is not really worried about what are clearly projectile weapons, since they had long advanced energy weapons centuries ago. But when the spinning autocannon turrets pepper the Star Destroyer's shields and cause the deck to shake below the Imperial captain's feet, he realizes he has miscalculated. Sensor logs indicate that the projectile shells impact with some form of phased plasma energy. These are not simple bullets. The Avenger would be in a dire situation if it did not defend itself. The Machariel begins to orbit the Star Destroyer with agility comparable if not greater than a Mon Calamari cruiser. Bad news, as Star Destroyers are vulnerable from behind. The Avenger returns fire. Encouraged that the pirate ship's shields seem to be just as vulnerable to their weapons, the Imperials press the attack and throw in TIE fighters as well. The nimble Hobgoblin drones, although fewer, are more than a match for TIE fighters. But the combined firepower rapidly begins to take down the Machariel's shields. Suddenly the Machariel's thrusters glow bright, and the ship accelerates. It speeds far faster than a ship of its size should be capable of. If it were from the Star Wars galaxy, that is. The Machariel is equipped with a module called a micro-warp drive, a common module throughout New Eden. It is able to warp space just enough to allow ships to travel at tremendous sublight speeds. However, it takes a lot of power, emits a lot of heat, and is often used sparingly. The Machariel is also one of the fastest battleships in New Eden, and this particular one is equipped with a nanofiber hull modification. Once the Machariel reaches a certain range, the Star Destroyer's targeting sensors begin to strain to get a clear lock on the battleship. The turbolaser blasts begin to miss. The Machariel's shots also begin to miss. It is clear that their phased plasma shells have limited optimal range, but the Machariel directs its focus on the swarm of TIE fighters instead. The TIE fighter swarm is eventually eliminated. The Machariel's turrets are assisted by fast tracking enhancers. This is another custom module outfitted by the capsuleer, who's competent in outfitting his ship. And the Machariel's drones, although some are lost, are able to help whittle down the TIE fighters until they are no longer a threat. And then a new type of projectile rains destruction upon the Star Destroyer. Not as powerful as the phased plasma shells, these new projectiles seem to have longer range. One thing that the Machariel is able to do that the Star Destroyer cannot is change its weapon ammunition type. Different ammo types have different ranges and damage characteristics. In this case, the capsuleer has loaded barrage, which extends the effective range of the autocannons. The Machariel is now able to kite the Star Destroyer, which has difficulty hitting a moving target at longer ranges, and with the TIE Fighter complement decimated, the Avenger is at a severe disadvantage. The Avenger does have a trump card, however: tractor beams. Star Destroyer tractor beams are known to be effective at extremely long ranges. This is how they catch ships leaving planet surfaces. The power strain is enormous, but the Avenger seizes the pirate ship with tractor beams, limiting the Machariel's speed and allowing the Avenger to close in. The Star Destroyer must temporarily conserve power until it reaches an optimal range and can open up with turbolasers. The Machariel has a trump card of its own, though: a stasis grappler. Right before the Avenger reaches a range appropriate for unleashing turbolasers, a strange distorting effect emits from the pirate battleship, and the Star Destroyer's speed is reduced. The mass of the Avenger is increased by 400%. Stasis webifiers and stasis grapplers are New Eden's comparable module to tractor beams. They can reduce the speeds of ships to a mere crawl, but they are limited in range. It seems to matter little to the Avenger, however. By this time, the tractor beams have achieved the desired effect. The Imperials try diverting a little more power to ion cannons than turbolasers to see if the pirate battleship's shields are more vulnerable to ion fire. It works! You see, in New Eden, each ship is able to resist certain forms of damage types more than others. The Machariel is inherently resistant to most thermal, kinetic, and explosive damage, but vulnerable to electromagnetic damage, which is the ion cannon's primary damage type. This is an oversight for the capsuleer. He did not plug his ship's natural resist hole with any defense modules that could have helped with this situation. The shields of the Machariel, now almost depleted, begin to drop under the turbolaser and ion cannon barrage. The pirate battleship does have yet another trick up its sleeve. The power strains of maintaining a tractor beam, full engines, and weapons are enormous for the Avenger. A peculiar red beam envelops the Avenger. His tractor beam loses power first, and then the turbolasers and ion cannons begin to sputter and fire less rapidly. The Machariel is equipped with an energy neutralizer, capable of draining power from an opponent at closer range. The Machariel pulls away from the Star Destroyer yet again, and just as its shields drop, parts of its hull glowing from turbolaser impact, the Machariel gains the upper hand, resumes its kiting tactics, and now the Avenger's shields are about to collapse. The capsuleer pilot senses that victory is imminent. He activates the warp disruption device to prevent the Star Destroyer from escaping. He is anxious to pick through the wreck of this odd ship for technology and shiny loot. He also looks forward to displaying the logs of the kill to his other capsuleer pirate friends, who are too high on boosters to assist him at the moment. Luckily, the Star Destroyer's layers of armor are enough to allow time for the Avenger to calculate a jump to hyperspace. The Avenger's commander knows that he is at an impasse. He could remain and be destroyed, or simply leave. The capsuleer, confident that his warp disruptor has the Star Destroyer locked down, watches in disbelief As the Star Destroyer leaps away, he rages for a moment, being deprived of a kill that would have been hard won through sound tactics and courage. But the enemy ship, whoever it was, obviously had equipped warp core stabilizers, a cowardly device that could counter the effects of warp disruptors. Only the Star Destroyer had no such devices. Its hyperdrive works on different technology than warp drive. This is the Avenger's one huge advantage. Although without warp drive, the Avenger couldn't nimbly fly from planet to planet in seconds like the ships of New Eden, it could bypass stargates. The Avenger is able to jump to an isolated system, unconnected to any stargates. The New Eden database designates the system starting with J, followed by some random numbers. The local communications channel is silent. There are no obvious space stations. This isolated system should provide temporary refuge while the Avenger makes repairs and decides their next move. The crew of the Avenger, after their long ordeal, finally feels safe. But are they? I love Star Wars, but I also love EVE Online for its depth, player-generated content, and variety of gameplay styles. If you want to try the game, and try it for free, it is free to play now. Feel free to contact me in-game under the character name Maximillian Bonaparte, written here, and also in the description below. Or if you're not sure or having trouble getting started, feel free to contact me through YouTube by going to my channel, clicking the About tab on the right, and then the little message icon to the right of the channel description. I love to bring more people into this excellent game or simulation. Stay tuned for more content like computer animations, story-oriented scenarios, and more. Keep evolving, space friends, and good hunting!